May 1945. The war in Europe has days left. And at a medieval castle in the Austrian Alps, American soldiers and German soldiers are about to fight on the same side. This actually happened. It is the only battle in the entire Second World War where American and German troops fought together against a common enemy, and almost nobody knows it. Castle Itter wasn't a fortress, it was a prison, a satellite camp holding France's most valuable political captives in strange comfort while the war burned around them. Inside were two former French prime ministers, two French generals, a famous tennis champion, and the sister of Charles de Gaulle, enemies of the regime, kept alive as bargaining chips. Then in the first days of May, the guards did the math on how this war was ending. One morning the prisoners woke up and every single captor had simply vanished overnight. They armed themselves with the weapons left behind and waited. The danger was not over. Fanatical units were still in the valley, and they had orders to leave no witnesses. Enter Major Josef Gangl, a German officer who had spent his final weeks quietly working with the Austrian resistance, trying to protect civilians from his own side's death squads. Gangl knew the castle would be attacked, and knew he had barely a dozen men. So he drove toward the American lines to surrender, and to ask his enemies for help. He found Captain Jack Lee of the 23rd Tank Battalion, a cigar-chewing American officer who had every reason to shoot him on sight, and instead listened to the whole impossible story. An American captain and a German major agreed a truce, shook hands, and drove back up that mountain together to defend a castle full of French politicians. Lee brought one Sherman tank and a handful of men. Gangl brought roughly 10 German soldiers. That was the entire relief force, 24 men, one tank, one castle. American and German soldiers dug in side by side, sharing ammunition and firing positions, preparing for the same attack. 24 hours earlier they had been killing each other. Then the French prisoners demanded weapons and a place on the wall. Elderly statesmen and generals who had spent years in captivity insisted on fighting. Lee lost that argument. At first light on May 5th, the attack came. Well over 100 attacking troops, professional and heavily armed, against roughly 24 defenders holding a stone wall. Those walls were medieval. They were never built for machine guns. Stone chips flew, windows shattered, and the defenders held a position that should have fallen in minutes. Then the attackers brought up an anti-tank gun. The Sherman took a direct hit and was destroyed. The defenders lost their heaviest weapon in a single shot. With the tank gone, the math turned brutal. Ammunition was running out, the walls were being chewed apart, and absolutely no reinforcements were coming up that valley. So the tennis champion volunteered. Jean Baratra climbed the wall, sprinted straight through the attackers' fire line, and ran for the American positions to bring help. Back at the castle, Gangl was pulling a former French prime minister out of a sniper's line when the sniper found him instead. He died, shielding the man he came to save. The relief column arrived at the last possible moment. The siege collapsed, every French prisoner walked out alive, and Gangl was the only defender killed in the entire battle. 3 days later, the war in Europe ended. Subscribe for more genuinely unbelievable history, and tell me in the comments which forgotten battle I should cover next.